Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is Hotla Mode, and today on Hotla Mode we're getting into our 2024 best and worst dressed, because listen, I'm trying to squeeze all of the 2024 lists out while I can. I also want to say that none of these are in like particular order unless I specifically say so. A lot of them are just, we're just talking best and worst. I also bought myself this mic, so I'm about to be insufferable, and I hope you all had a lovely 2024 and a happy New Year's, the wonderfulest holidays, all those kinds of things. So, without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start out with a softball. First up, Jojo Siwa in her Karma outfit, because I don't know if you remember this. If you don't, wow, great therapist you have. The issue was, I think it was meant to be camp, so it was meant to be so bad, it was good, but it wasn't camp, it was just so bad, it was bad. It's like a knockoff sexy Kiss outfit, and I think with the makeup and the hair, like, I appreciate going for it and really trying to do a full look situation. It's just that Jojo could possibly become like regular human being superstar, not just small child superstar, because she had that sort of big glamoury glitzy David Bowie thing going on. It's just, I don't think that she has realized that her audience, now that she's looking to target, doesn't need to see her in that. It's too much, it's just ugly. I think there are ways to do like ironic, fun, exciting, campy clothes. I feel like a Moschino makes sense for her. I think a Schiaparelli would make sense for her. I think that there are things that she could do fashion-wise that could be humor-filled and fun and out there and costumey. This is not it. Like, I'm even saying put her in a Christian Siriano. Let's see what happens there. That was bad. Now, for our first best, I'm gonna put Selena Gomez. Not because I think that there was any particular outfit that was like, oh my gosh, so amazing, jaw-dropping. I don't think there was one of those, but I will say it felt like for the first time in a minute where her whole press tour for Amelia Perez was really well done in terms of things fit, the outfits were nice, necklines made sense, nothing really truly except for like one early look threw me as like, oh, so ugly. It just felt like a real refinement and a finding of like a personal style. And even though I didn't like every single outfit, because I do wish some of them were a little bit more exciting or storytelling-esque, I do appreciate the fact that she really just honed in on one singular silhouette and said, let me figure out a bunch of ways to change it, make it a little different. You had a lot of these sort of off-the-shoulder necklines, and a lot of the dresses were form-fitting black styles. That was it. And then there was a few pops of color here and there, but I just felt like it was really refined. She really went to work, just made sure that it was nicely fitted, nicely done, old luxury, just that idea of like quality instead of quantity. Next up on the worst, we have Zoe Saldana. The thing is, she also was doing the Amelia Perez press tour, so like, I get it, I understand it, but at the same time, nothing really landed. I'll use the Chloe Met Gala gown as an example. It was a Chloe signature belt with a beige chiffon dress, and it just really didn't speak to the theme. It wasn't exciting. It was just a Chloe branded belt, and I do feel like it was a little bit unfair to her, but at the same time, there are other examples, like that Saint Laurent dress that she wore to what? Cannes? If it's a reference, great. Still ugly. Just, there's nothing that we could do about it to make it look better. I don't know if that's a sentence. I don't know. That's what it was. Like, the bow at the knee felt really unnecessary, I think. There was that puff dress that was like high, low, but at the neckline, so it was like a low, vibrant pink puff in the back. And even when it wasn't bad, it just like wasn't great or memorable. Just a lot of her walking looks. Like, I like the jumpsuits. I don't mind the leather jackets over the knee-length pencil skirts. It's just like, it didn't bring up the profile. But I felt it was a rough year for Zoe. Next on our best list, we're going to put Taylor Russell. I just feel like she had a nice, fun, cool year. At the same time, like, she wasn't really doing a whole lot of promoting of any projects, but still said, let me serve. I loved a lot of her Loewe looks. She had that beautiful white gown that she wore to the BAFTAs that had the cutouts on the side and it was backless. We also saw a black version that she wore in South Korea, I believe, to like a Loewe store opening. I like that silhouette on her. I thought it was really beautiful, and I like the fact that she lets Jonathan Anderson of Loewe work with her, and she's part of the vision. That white gown. I think it was at Cannes because she was like one of the Cannes fashion ambassadors. She had this beautiful drape along the neck that then went into the back and sort of looped around. It was just a really like lovely moment for her. Even that Chanel look, like I know people were saying the plastic didn't necessarily fit super duper well on that vintage haute couture style, which like I agree. I think obviously the plastic panels could have fit better, but if you're not Claudia Schiffer from that specific time period, it might have been a little bit more difficult to get it to fit perfectly. I'm gonna give her that one. You know what I mean? Like, I also wouldn't want somebody to be taking apart an iconic piece like that to like readjust the plastic panels. Should she maybe have not worn it? I guess. I see that argument. I also at the same time was like, well, you know, listen, it's not perfect, but I do think that it's a major pull. And I know people were upset at me about the wood corset bodice thing from the Met Gala that was Loewe as well. And like I stand by the fact that I didn't think it was super duper on theme, but I do think it's a really lovely piece. I don't know. I assume it's leather, but it really does have this wax to it that it shines so well. It looks like it's wooden. I assume it's not wooden because that would be very uncomfortable and probably would really, really hurt. But it was fun and it definitely tried to get into the garden theme. I just didn't think it was like amazing. Next up for worst, I'm going to put Mikey Madison. I'm not saying all of her looks. There were just like a few that I was like, that first Chanel haute couture look that she wore, I believe this was Cannes, where you know, it's Chanel. It's not necessarily her fault. Virginie Viard created it, but she also put it on her body and went out into the public sphere with it. So to each their own. I just didn't understand what I call like an Under Armour spandex top with this beautiful embroidered bra and the skirt, I won't say it's beautiful, it's a skirt. It just didn't make sense to me, and I do think that in certain cases, for the Chanel ambassadors, she could have, I don't know, like, played with it a little bit. Maybe because she's also newer on, like, the red carpet brand scene, she doesn't have as much ability to be like, no, I'm not wearing that. Your celebrity, I think, ebbs and flows, and that's how the brands respond to it, so I'm unsure. I just didn't necessarily think that this was a great look. Also, that Louis Vuitton look that she wore, again, like I appreciate her trying, but like no, they should have said no. The black panels of lace just don't help anybody, and with the shoe, it's just not great. Yeah, like she wore this Schiaparelli nail look and she wore a beautiful red Prada gown. Again, like some of these aren't really just like that person is the worst dressed. It's just certain outfits are just the worst dressed. I just don't think there was like a whole lot of other looks to really like take me out of saying, oh, like those made it better. You know what I mean? It didn't. It's just certain ones were pretty bad. Next up for best, I'm putting Davai and Joy Randolph in this list. I really like, she had a nice year to me. I very much so enjoyed it. That Gap by Zach Posen custom Met Gala look that was made out of vintage denim, thought was lovely. I like the idea of reusing fabric because the whole Met Gala exhibit thing, I know it's not necessarily the Garden of Time, but at the same time, it related more to the exhibit. And so like, I think that that's 100% acceptable for being on theme. At the same time, it was really beautiful. It felt very, I don't want to say medieval, but like it had a Renaissance flair to me. Something about the neckline, something about the sleeves. It just felt like you would look at a Florentinian portrait and like this would be in it. The hair, like it just, she looked great. I really enjoyed. I also really liked the silhouette that she had debuted 2 different times by Louis Vuitton. One was in pink and the other was, I believe, black and white. And again, I had to say myself at the LV show, Luke, do not go up to Davine Joy Randolph and be like, I'm obsessed with you. Because I did see the holdovers and she's fantastic in it. But I just really liked the silhouette for her. I felt like it was really different. I felt like it was really interesting. And yet at the same time, I did really think that it kind of played into Nicolas Ghesquiere's kind of like mixing and matching of decades aesthetics, fabrics. It worked. Like the off the shoulder, the big sort of peplum that turned into like a skirt. Like it's interesting and I enjoyed it very much. And she looks radiant. So loved. Next, I'm putting Taylor Swift. But listen, like, here's the thing. Taylor didn't have, like, the worst year to me. I do think that it's, like, a styling thing, and I don't even want to blame her stylist, Joseph, for all of it, because I do think some of it is her just being like, no, I don't want to do that. Which, like, to each their own. She's allowed to do that. But at the same time, she should learn from Blake Lively. Let the experts work. Let the people that are in their fields field. As much as I like didn't hate the green velvet dress, although I said that it was one of the worst dresses because with the boots and the stocking, sorry, I don't hate crushed velvet. I just hate the styling. It's the same thing with that Vivienne Westwood dress. I mean, like, I think it's a pretty bad Westwood dress, if I'm being open and honest with you, but like something about the styling of it also just doesn't help. Like the velvet peep toe sandal heel is it's crazy. I'm sorry. It's actually insanity. Like it's a wild choice that she said, yes, let's do that. Even she wore that other Westwood look and it was like a skirt suit and like really vibrant like green. So it was just like an orange and it's just like she finds stuff that I have to say to myself, where do you come up with this shit? What is it? Like even that green Gucci dress, like it wasn't bad. Like it wasn't a bad dress, but at the same time, like it wasn't major. It wasn't super duper memorable. Also, I bought the Taylor Swift style dress book by Sarah Chappelle, and it's a signed edition. It's signed. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to learn in 2025 what the style thing is so that I understand more. But if I read this goddamn book and the style thing still does not make sense this year, we're going to have a fight, Swifties, who are defending some actions. Because I know there's some of you that are not. Some of it's crazy. She even wore that like really cute. It was really, really cute. It was like a red coat. She wore it to the Chiefs game. I thought, wow, so great. And then she wore a hat. And like, listen, I get wearing a hat, but like you're Taylor Swift. You have access to every beautiful hat in the world. I'm telling you, these brands would bend over backwards and shove the largest whatever up their rectums in order to have Taylor Swift wear something. And like that's why when I look at Natalie Portman, who's I'm gonna put as our next best, like that's what I want to see Taylor Swift in. Like a beautiful Dior haute couture gown like that. Like she would radiate such wonderful energy out of it. But she doesn't wear things like that. She wears this. And I don't get it. It's so upsetting to me. I also have been reading that there's like maybe rumbling she might become an LV ambassador. And like I will say one of the two looks of Taylor Swift that I've ever actually enjoyed, one of them was LV. I hope that that comes around because things will be good for all of us, hopefully. Crossing my fingers. As I was saying, next best, Natalie Portman. I love this Dior gown. I know that it's a recreation of a Raf Simons for Dior look, but it's so beautiful. Like it's a wonderful wash of florals. It's like a meadow on her that ombres in. It's really, really lovely. Like this is the kind of stuff that I think Taylor Swift would be like bombdiggity.com in, but I digress. I just thought striking, easy, beautiful, wonderful, floral, pretty, lovely, and yet at the same time like it just has that one little bit of difference that makes it feel newer and fresher and a little bit out there and avant-garde, yet still something that like you could wear. Might be a little heavy, but you could wear it. I just thought this was one of the better best dressed moments. While we're here talking about Dior and the Golden Globes, Rosamind Pike in Dior. Love this beautiful black lace gown. Thought it was so sweet. The headpiece was beyond.com. I thought it made it. I really enjoy when people lend themselves to wearing a headpiece like Rihanna as well. She's a good headpiece wearer. There's just something about it that helps to sort of bring an artistic distinction. And maybe at the Oscars that doesn't make sense. I get it. I understand. But at all the other award shows, like, why not? Why not go for something a little interesting, a little fun, a little flirty, a little bit kooky that pulls together a whole moment so that people are like, oh my gosh, can you believe that she wore that? We should totally vote for her for an Oscar. Next up, I'm going to put Florence Pugh in the worst. And here's the thing about Florence Pugh. I feel like she had a tough year because earlier in the year when Zendaya was doing Zendaya for Dune, I don't know if anybody else had the memo, although they should have had the memo that she was going to dress. She was going to dress, and that you were all expected to try to do something similar. Otherwise, you will be, in fact, roadkill. A lot of the Dune looks, it was like, oh no. And it's just hard because it's like you put somebody next to Zendaya, and it's like, oh. And like the men have the ability to just sort of be like, we're men, so it doesn't really matter what we do. Anya Taylor-Joy only did like a few moments, but like she came in and she's like, I know what I'm up against here. So I'll play. But I feel like Florence, it was just a little out of her league fashion-wise. I think she's a fantastic actress. I'm sure she's a lovely person. That's not what I'm saying. It's really just, a lot of the looks were okay. They were fine. It's just not really super memorable, not really super exciting. And then on top of it, you're sharing a carpet with Zendaya. It's tough. This like look from the Vanity Fair, I just didn't get it. For best, I'm gonna put Sabrina Carpenter because I really liked a lot of her tour looks. I felt like she really cultivated an image. And I know that a lot of baby doll looks or whatever, like that's her thing. And I thought it was good to cultivate that fashion-y image. I love that Bob Mackie dress that she wore to the VMAs. It was vintage. She's like a Bob Mackie girl. It makes sense. Bombshell blonde. Easy. Completely get it. Bob, he mackied. He made those kind of bombshelly, very beautiful, very pretty. He made the 1965, like, Happy Birthday, Mr. President dress, the nude. He gets it. So I thought that was a really smart move. I also just love the rhinestone towel. I didn't go to any Sabrina Carpenter concerts, but I've seen the videos of her, like, opening her towel and it being, like, fully crystallized on the inside. And, like, that's the stuff that I think is fun and funky and chic and cool and interesting. I thought Sabrina had a very good fashion year, although I'd like to see more in the future. I can't not talk about Lana Del Rey's Alexander McQueen and her Valentino. She had a good year. I'm putting her on our best. I mean, that Alexander McQueen at the Met Gala to me changed my whole idea of Sean McGurr as a designer. I didn't love his first runway, and so Lana wearing this beautiful bramble take on a look, I believe, from Widows of Culloden, but it was done in a thorny, brambly experience to pay homage to the Garden of Time theme, because in the story of the Garden of Time, there's a bramble that essentially ends out the storyline. It also felt to me reminiscent of when she was really going for it, when she was placed with Gucci and Alessandra Michele at the Met Gala. There was just like a real character embodiment that Lana sort of does and has. Like, she just has a lovely, lovely beauty to her. And so when she really like lets herself get into the fashion of it all, it always shakes out in the end, in my opinion. And another great example again is that Valentino by Alessandra Michele. You know, they've worked together before, and I thought that that sort of dusty, old but sparkly and sequined vibe is kind of very her, but also very Alessandra Michele, and is slowly becoming very Valentino. So yeah, I loved it. I thought Lana had a great year. Also, another quick best, Anok Yai. I loved the Swarovski look that she wore to the Met Gala. So beautiful, so stunning. It looked like they were painted on her. And yet, I also loved the look that she wore to the British Fashion Awards because they were just like so good. That little John Galliano reference was so sexy, so hot, and hit me in like a personal way because it's such a wonderful collection that we did a video on. And so, I don't know, I just felt like, oof, Anok, yes. Another worst, I'm going to put Emily Blunt's Schiaparelli, which is apparently a very controversial take, the one with the briefs that she wore to the Oscars. Here was my thing. I love doing funny ha-ha trompe-l'oeil. Like, it's very Schiaparelli. I'm not saying it's not. I think that on its own and when it was on the runway, it's very Schiaparelli, very humorous, very funky and cool. And I don't think that Emily Blunt is like not able to do that. I need everybody to comprehend that like I love Emily Blunt. Like, I think she's fantastic. Emily Charlton is like my gateway into fashion. I'm hearing this and I want to hear this. She deserves it. I guess why I thought it just didn't make sense was for the Oscars. Obviously, you can wear whatever you want and be represented however you want. I just thought that, I don't know, for like the Oppenheimer Oscar, the underwear dress, I don't know. I watched Oppenheimer and it was long, but I don't remember a significant underwear part of the film. Couldn't piece it all together. But besides the underwear thing, it's a really beautiful dress. I just think the underwear thing threw it off and just didn't make sense for this particular moment, in my opinion. Also, I gotta give it to Michelle Yeoh. We can do a best and a worst because Michelle is both on the best and the worst dress list in this particular instance. I just think as like a fashion diva, she is it for the most part. I love that degraded, torn, ripped, but beautifully crystalled Balenciaga gown that she wore, and the hair, I think, really made it for me, but I think the gown was also quite fantastic. But I really love when she wears black and then there's some sort of crystal situation going on. It seems like that was a lot of what we saw on her. I mean, there's this beautiful sculpted, lovely dip gown with a nice gold feather sort of brooch situation. I mean, just the sculpture neckline alone, fantastic. And she wore this beautiful Bottega turtleneck gown and that had this big, stunning necklace over top. Again, that I just thought like this works. It's really beautiful. It's just mother-esque. I think she's fantastic. And then when she's not wearing these like beautiful ornate gowns, when she wears Bottega Veneta and she wore that Intrecciato beautiful white shirt, which is fully leather suede. I saw her in person. It was magical. And leather pants that look like jeans. Like it's just, she knows how to do it. She gets it. She is the quiet luxury diva, and I love her. I'm also going to put Ariana on the best because there were a lot of really great looks for Wicked, but I think my favorite one was the pink and white gingham. I thought it did a really good job of celebrating not only Glinda and the pink, but also paying homage to Dorothy's very iconic gingham dress from The Wizard of Oz. I loved it. There were a lot of really good looks, but I think this was the most impactful for me. But Michelle also was on the worst list too. There was one gown, I hated that gown. I just don't get it. It was a lot of strips and stripes and strip. It didn't work. And I think there are certain looks that you just can't explain away. Something about them I couldn't comprehend. People were defending it. People have been defending it, and I've been reading them. I still don't see what you see, but I understand that there are fans of the dress. Happy for you. I just am not one of them, and I have yet to be explained to the reasons why it's a great dress. I mean, Cynthia Erivo, also fantastic, best dress without a doubt. I mean, her look at the Oscars, she's like a beautiful leather T-Rex. It was amazing. I just think she did a great job of moving between referencing Glinda's very iconic two colors, green and black, without it ever feeling stale. There was never a moment where I thought, oh, I kind of already have seen this. If she's wearing Tom Brown, it was like a beautiful skirt suit that was paying homage to the Olympics, or even just like the look that she wore to the Olympics. I believe that was a custom LV look. Gorgeous green with structure, and it's in this lovely silk, and she always had a headpiece. Like she got it. You know, that Zach Posen black gown that she wore to the CFDA Awards. I mean, the hood, magical. It fit her beautifully. Like it's Gap, you know, like crazy. I just never felt bored. Like that sort of trumpety gown that she wore, I believe that was to the Academy Gala. A lot of her Wicked premiere looks, especially that Schiaparelli with the gold singular leg and like the uplift so you could see underneath. I just really thought that like she did it well. And for Wicked Part 2, I'm very excited. We're gonna go into worse, and I'm gonna put Addison Rae's VMAs look on there, but here's the thing about it. Like, it is so bad that it's good. Like, her shelf boob bra is crazy and wild and weird, but also at the VMAs, like, that's what you want. So, like, it's so bad that it becomes good. Like, it's so worse that it becomes best to me. Like, I think that this will go and live on one of the VMA craziest outfit things, one of the worst outfits of the VMAs ever, but like that is what in fact makes it a great look. It's bad, but it's good. You're understanding what I'm saying is like it's so crazy that she's wearing literally a white silk brief and shelf bra with a tutu on the back that I'm like, yeah, agree. I also have to say one of the best was Hunter Schafer in that beautiful Prada chiffon fan scarf swirl look. Just the way that it moved, the ability to create that dynamicism was really just like something. And she looked ethereal. It was fun. It paid homage to the runway, but created longer gown length versions so that at the Globes it was just like, whoo, yeah. Worst, Lizzo is a tree. I hated it so much. It just was weird and it didn't make sense. And I understand it was part of like the Garden of Time Met Gala theme, but at the same time, like, did we need that? No. I also just don't think it looked that much like a tree, but she said it looked like a tree. And so, like, I don't comprehend. Somebody actually recently was like, it looks like a stump. And I don't think it looks like a stump because I don't know any stumps that have that angular shape. But I do think that the headpiece is really like worse. And I know I'm like, oh, headpiece. Maybe not that headpiece. But besides that, bad. We have another Met Gala moment. I have to say that Tyla in this beautiful Belmont sand gown was ethereal. It was magical. It was wonderful. It perfectly captured not the theme of like the Garden of Time in terms of like the actual story that it was based on, but the idea of time and sand, you know, sand as an hourglass, sand as like a garden, zen sand gardens. Like she got it and she really went for it. And it was really a moment. Also, on top of it, like she's just such a beauty that at the same time being dynamic and fun, but also like incredibly beautiful really works here because you just get the points for like looking like that. And I want to say, I went to the Victoria's Secret fashion show and I saw Tyla perform live. I'm not straight, but that's as close as I have ever been to wanting to be. She is magical. to look at. Like, there is nothing about her that I did not say, oh, wow. She moved and she danced and the feather, it was crazy. She's a fashion girl. I'm really excited to see where she goes. I also got to put Blake Lively on the worst. I think she's probably my big worst. Is the It Ends With Us tour was just such a catastrophe of experiences. Like, there were some looks that were okay, but I mean, that Versace look, rent free my mind. It is squatting in my brain and it will never leave. I'd rather just burn the house down. It's not good. It's awful. And then on top of it, the concept of doing like all florals, because the theme of the movie is she's a florist, but the actual theme of the movie isn't really that she's a florist. It's actually that she's like abused in the film, then lent it to be like, oh, happy go lucky. Actually, not as happy go lucky. And I have friends that were like, I wore florals to the film and was very upset about the fact that I wore florals to the movie when I found out what it was about. It wasn't great. And again, I would like to say I am not on anybody's PR list. You know what I mean? Like, I am not being paid to denigrate certain people's outfits. Would be nice, but I am not. Whatever the legal situation is, this was in fact brought on by Blake not having a stylist. Without a doubt. And this is the last one. The best of the best. It has to be Zendaya. And I know that like she's always beautiful and she's always elegant, she's always fashion, but I do think that this year in particular, she really was a force. And I think that we need to highlight all the shit that she did. So she did 2 different press tours for films this year because they were pushed back. I believe that Challengers was supposed to be first and then it was supposed to be Dune. I believe that Challengers was supposed to come out in 2023, like end of 2023, and then it was Dune, and then she was going to have the Met Gala. And it was going to be like, bam. No, because of the writers' strikes, Zendaya had to do Dune first, and she wore the Mugler robot suit, which still is the craziest thing, but also beautiful archival Alexander McQueen for Givenchy. She wore like custom Bottega, custom Louis Vuitton, like, oh, the Alaya dress. And I touched that Alaya dress. I saw it like maybe a few weeks after she wore it. And I was like, I have to touch the dress. That Alaya show happened and I wasn't in Paris. So I was like, I needed to go to the re-see because you got to re-see because it was such a good Peter Moulier moment. But I was like, also like, I need to know how the spiral works because up top, the spiral. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. My DNA has touched fashion history. And then Challengers. So like on top of that, she does Challengers and it's all amazingly themed to tennis. I mean, you have beautiful Tom Brown, you have Loewe, multiple Loewe looks because Jonathan Anderson was the costume designer. I mean, there was that on outfit that she paid homage to Althea Gibson. I mean, the Jacquemus was just cute. There was like archival Ralph Lauren. I mean, the Loewe tennis heel. Like there was just so much good stuff in that press tour. And like we're just getting started. The Met Gala, she did 2 different looks. It's the first time I've ever heard of somebody doing 2 different looks, one in the beginning, one at the end. And like I stand by not liking the 2 looks, not because I like hated them. I didn't think that they were as amazing as I expected. But I do think that had Challengers come first and then there had been the break like they were supposed to be, and then she did Dune, and then there was break like they were supposed to be, when the Met Gala hit, it would have felt different. But because in reality they were so back to back to back that it felt like we were getting almost like a little bit of fatigue at the end. Without that, like I think it would have been so different. But even then, like there were still major looks. Can't deny it, even if I didn't love it. Then on top of it, she did what? 2 different Vogue covers. She did one for American Vogue, one for British Vogue. It's done. And then she did like 3 different ad campaigns. She did one for the Louis Vuitton Kashmir Kami. She did one for On. She did one for Bulgari. That's a lot of stuff. So I really think that Zendaya like had a year and a lot of like very memorable looks to add to her repertoire. I mean, like the Emmys look, like there's so much stuff that you could not give best dress to Zendaya. Like she deserved it because she worked her ass off. So did Law. So shout out to them. But that is the end of this best and worst dressed for 2024 video. I hope you guys enjoy TTYL and get ready to be sick of me with this mic.